Let's say that you have a headache and you go to a medicine and buy yourself some sort of analgesic like a aspirin or a paracetamol, right? And your headache gets cured. Now, different people have different amount of time and different amount of dosages that they need to cure the headache. To be very honest, when I have a headache, I don't have a medicine for that. I just have to go off to sleep, and when I wake up next morning, the headache may be gone. I have tremendous bouts of headaches, to be honest. But you go to a medicine shop, you buy an aspirin, take the aspirin. Now, this aspirin was not designed for you. It was created at scale, it was produced at scale, and it was created for all kinds of people, And so medicine companies work with averages. What if I told you that if you have a headache, you could go and tell the medicine company that you have a headache, and they will take your DNA, and based on that, they will design a medicine that is specifically for you, will only work on you, and will only work for headaches. What would you say? You would say that wasteful, can't scale, unlikely. Well, you'd be surprised. There are medicines today which are specifically designed for a particular disease, for a particular patient. And let's go a little bit deeper into it. But before we go there, how do you like Enterprise Architecture Radio? How do you like the videos that I am giving you? If you enjoy them, then let YouTube know. Like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Post comments. I want to hear from you. If you don't like something, let me know. If there are specific topics that you want me to talk about, let me know. I'm talking about pharmaceutical industry, and this is a series that we are running, and I can understand that you might think that it's getting a little bit monotonous. Let me know, and we'll change, we'll pivot, we'll change flavors a little bit. So let's get into it. What is the problem with medicines that are created for a large number of people, like for the masses? Aspirin, for example. See, every human being is unique, right? We have our own biomarkers, we have our own DNA, we have our own way of absorbing, distributing, metabolizing, excreting medicines. Some medicines may not be toxic for everybody, but they may be toxic for a small group of people. But medicine companies have to work on averages because they are producing at scale. So medicines have a different impact on different kinds of people. And that is the reason why medicines like aspirin and analgesics basically don't work on me when I have a headache, because for some reason I do not metabolize the medicine properly or something. I'm not entirely sure why. And I've tried different types of medicines. I've tried Dispirin, I've tried Crocin, I've tried, in the past I used to have Combiflam, which is actually very harmful for the kidneys and should be taken only in emergencies and so on. But it doesn't work on me. But it works very nicely on a friend of mine. He has a similar kind of, it's not a migraine, but migraine kind of headaches. And he takes a medicine and it works beautifully on him. So every human body is unique, and we have our own way of metabolizing medicine. Some people are heavier, some people are lean and thin, some people have, and so on and so forth. There are so many factors, genetic factors, environmental factors, that basically you are not able to control the impact that the medicine has on the patient. And that's why if you look at the drug development process, it starts with drug discovery, where you do, you discover a drug and you do lab tests and you do animal testing. And then drug development, in which you do human testing. There are different phases. You start with normal human beings who do not have the ailment, just to test the safety of the drug. And then you move on to patients who do have that particular illness that you're trying to cure, and then you test the efficacy of the drug, and so on and so forth. Larger and larger groups of people. But when you're doing these testing, you take a diverse group of people. You take people from different races, people from different environments, people with different metabolic rates, heavier people, leaner people, men, women, and so on and so forth. There are obviously some caveats. You don't test it on children, you don't test it on pregnant women, but other than that, it has to be a diverse group, because, medicine companies are working with averages. And then you have your regulatory phases, in which regulatory bodies will come and check your data, check your outcomes, check your, the way that you've done the tests and so on and so forth, and give you a go-ahead. Eventually, you get into the production phase, where the regulatory bodies tell you that, okay, the medicine looks good, it's efficacious, it is safe, you can now produce it at scale. But that does not mean that the testing stops, okay? And that is called real-world evidence. Medicine companies or pharmaceutical companies, they continue to gather data from the world at large, to understand the impact of medicines on patients, because they also understand that, diverse group of people out there in the world, some are heavy, some are lean, some are different metabolisms, basically different kind of bodies. Every body is unique, so they need to constantly monitor the effect that the medicine is having on people. And that is the problem. You don't have a sure shot medicine for a particular drug. Now, painkiller is a very easy to manage ailment. If you go off to sleep like I do, next morning there's a good chance you might be better. The body heals itself. But there are other ailments like cancer, for example, where you cannot be so light about it. You need drugs that will actually do their job and so on. So the concept of precision medicine comes into the picture. So what is precision medicine, right? There is an example of BRCA. BRCA is a gene that women have. Sounds very complicated and technical, but BRCA is basically breast cancer, breast cancer gene, as they call it. Now, what this gene does is it repairs damaged cells. Excellent, very good. That's what it's supposed to do. But sometimes this gene mutates and it stops doing it. So when damaged cells means cells are made up of ultimately DNA. When a DNA strand splits into two, what it does is it quickly goes and heals it. Because if it splits into two, it might become two DNAs and then two cells, and then it multiplies, and that's why we say spreading like a cancer. So what it does is it goes and heals it. Excellent. As long as the BRCA is doing their job, a woman will not get breast cancer. But if there is a BRCA mutation, what that means is it stops healing the DNA strands. It leaves it alone, and which basically causes it to multiply. Now, the DNA strands that are damaged or that are now multiplying are basically cancer cells. These are the cells where BRCA did not work. So when I say that some women have BRCA mutation, doesn't mean that all the cells are BRCA mutated. Some cells within the overall body are mutated. They are not working really. Okay. So what happens is, one is now we can identify the BRCA mutation very early. You now know that there is a BRCA mutation that exists in the woman, so there is a 75% chance that this woman will eventually have breast cancer. So you can start working on that ahead of time, before things get out of hand, right? The second thing is, there's a treatment called PARP inhibitor treatment or inhibitor therapy. What it does is, PARP is something that exists in the nucleus of every cell inside human body, and its job is also the same as what BRCA does, except BRCA is specific to breast cancer. PARP also works there. So let's say that there is a cell that is damaged, there is a DNA strand that has split, right? The body will rely heavily on PARP to go and fix it. But unfortunately, PARP is now fixing a cancer cell, right? Which basically increases the multiplication of the cancer cell. What we really want to do is we want to kill the cancer cell. So we don't want PARP, right? So PARP inhibitor treatment, what it does is it stops the PARP from working. Now, in one of our previous episodes, we talked about protein folding and DNA encoding library. If you remember, what we do, we study the folding of a protein. It's complicated because it's very small and we look at it under the microscope and we only see two-dimensional images, and I'm oversimplifying here just to help you understand. But the protein folding needs to be studied from all angles, right? All different angles. And once we've studied it, we know its shape. We can take a small molecule that matches the shape of the protein and send it and attach it with the protein, which will change its behavior. Right? This is what we talked about and we talked about how Google DeepMind, AlphaFold and DNA encoding library, a library of all the small molecules, come together for us to be able to create synthetic medicine or what have you. Very interesting episode. In fact, one of the best episodes I've ever done. So if you've not watched it, I'll share the link in the show notes. Please, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go and look at that video. It should be interesting. Now, in this particular case, what we do is we look at the PARP molecule and we study its shape, right? And then we take a small molecule that attaches with the PARP molecule. And then what it does is it binds that PARP molecule and stops it from doing what it's supposed to do, which is heal the cell. So effectively what we are doing is, if the BRCA mutation is not there, then broken DNAs will be healed naturally, which is a good thing. These are healthy cells that we want to heal, right? And if the BRCA mutation does exist inside a cell, then it's a cancerous cell. In this case, we don't want that cell to heal. If there is PARP doing its job, then it will heal the cancerous cell, which is how it will grow. So what we do is we go and inhibit the PARP so that the cancerous cell do not heal. And over a period of time, they die out. So this is what you call precision medicine. Now, the mutation in every human being is unique. It is unique to them like a fingerprint. So when I say that the BRCA mutation stops BRCA from doing its job, it is the shape of that mutation is unique to every human being. So the shape of the PARP cell that exists inside every nucleus of a cell is also unique. So now what we are doing is we are creating a medicine that is specifically targeted to breast cancer, specifically targeted to one human being and one human being only. This is called precision medicine. This is called personalized medicine. And this is also, in a way, if you look at it, gene editing, right? We're looking at the genetic sequence, the genome of a human being. We are studying it, its shape, its behavior, etc. We are designing medicines that will change its shape and behavior. This is gene editing. We are changing the genetic structure of a human being so that they can live a happy life. There's this small girl named Hannah, and at the age of 6, she started getting seizures. Now these seizures were unexplained. They went to all the doctors and the doctors were not able to figure it out as to why these seizures are happening. And then what they did was they did a full genome sequencing of Hannah. They studied the entire genetic structure of Hannah, and what they found out is that there was a particular rare genetic mutation that she had called SCN2A. What this was doing was it was a sodium channel disorder. I don't want to get too much into the detail, but the sodium channel was causing some challenges with the neurons in our brain, which were essentially not passing the messages that they should, and seizures were happening. So what they did was they created a medicine specifically designed for Hannah, which would inhibit the sodium channel, which essentially resolved the issue, and she stopped having seizures. And she had a very long and healthy life, and it was a life-changing thing for not only Hannah but her entire family. She grew up to get married and have children and so on and so forth. But my point is that precision medicine is not a thing, it's not science fiction anymore, right? It's here. It's also called cell and gene therapy, by the way. So cell and gene therapy is something that you should look at. If you deep dive into it, you'll find it very interesting. But which raises some very interesting possibilities, If we can study the genetic structure of a human being and predict what are the different diseases that this particular person will have, it changes the future. Now, I started the episode by saying, what if you could go to a medicine company and tell them that you have a headache and they specifically design a drug for you? Now, that sounds a little bit out there, if you really ask me. But really, is it? Think about it. Let's say that a baby is born, right? Immediately what we do is the doctors go sit down and study the genetic structure of that baby. And we are talking about a couple of years into the future. Study the genetic structure of the baby and identify all the diseases that the baby is going to have, right? Like at the age of 20, the baby will have, I don't know, sickle cell disease, or at the age of 35, the baby potentially can have breast cancer, and so on and so forth. And then we start making the medicines that will be needed at different points in time right then and there, or start preparing for it at least, right? So that the baby can have a healthy and long life throughout his life. Very, very interesting concept. It is not, potentially it is possible, but that raises some very interesting ethical and moral concerns also. Because if we are going to do gene splicing, genetic manipulation to cure diseases, to create medicines that can cure diseases, what is to stop us from doing genetic mutations and enhancing human capabilities? How about better strength, or smarter minds, or better IQ people, or eventually probably the capability to move things with your mind, or we've all seen X-Men, right? And this has been around in pop culture for quite a while, and I take this very seriously. See, TV shows, movies, science fiction, all of this at one point in time were good entertainment and sounded very improbable and impossible. But if you think about it, most of these things have now come into the picture. Like Star Trek had sliding doors that would open when somebody would approach it. They exist now. They had communicators which are now mobile phones. They had, of course, there is still no teleportation or transporters. But genetic mutations have been covered as a part of Star Trek in the past. If you are a fan of the Star Trek, the original series, there was the eugenics wars, in which a small group of people were created that were genetically enhanced, who specifically to create the war, to win the war. But eventually, after winning the war, they became a problem, and their leader was Khan Noonien Singh, who ultimately battled James Tiberius Kirk. And then this was created into another movie recently. And then if you've seen Star Trek Strange New Worlds, there is Khan Noonien Singh, who is, by the way, one of the, Khan Noonien Singh was her forefather. So these are some ethical and moral concerns that we need to think about, which will come up eventually, because we are doing genetic manipulation already to create drugs. Very, very interesting subject, really, if you really ask me. And this is not the only interesting industry in the world, right? I am in the pharmaceutical industry, and that is why I enjoy studying these things, which is a fantastic segue into the book that we are going to review today. It's called Genomics at the Nexus of AI, Computer Vision and Machine Learning. So what the book does is it goes into how artificial intelligence, machine learning and computer vision are changing the way we do drug development or drug discovery or create medicines for new ailments, and how the pharmaceutical industry is being taken into the next generation, into a brave new world, and how we are changing things. And it's a very interesting book. I read these kind of books because, see, I am not a scientist, neither am I a doctor, all right? I am, this is all is my area of interest, because technology is having a profound impact, not just on the pharmaceutical industry, but overall on the whole world. If you think about it, right? Whether it is little children doing their homework using ChatGPT, and I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm just saying it's happening, to doctors and scientists creating drugs out of using artificial intelligence and machine learning, to fintech. If you look at fintech, artificial intelligence is used in creating investment instruments, in managing portfolios. In fact, there's something called algo trading, which is happening these days, and so the potential is immense. And I study this because I want to study how technology, artificial intelligence, and all these bleeding edge transformations that are happening, how they are impacting the business, how they are changing the way. And if we don't look at all these things, and if we don't look at how to change our minds about how to do business, we will be left behind. So very, very interesting days, to be very honest. Especially, I come from the 90s. I started my career in 2000 and started programming with basics of Visual Basic and C++, and today we have Python, which can do tremendous amount of things. In fact, I am running a personal project in which I'm trying to rebalance my stock portfolio, and I'm creating a program that will essentially look at the news, look at geopolitics, look at economics, and based on that come up with a summary list, and it will look at my portfolio, and it will look at the current price of those stocks and come up with a how to rebalance my portfolio and all of that. My point is that technology is transforming everything, and it's changing, and it's very, very interesting. And while I am in the pharma industry, I find it very interesting, but it's not the only industry that I'm going to talk about. And eventually finance is coming, and banking is coming, and manufacturing is coming, and retail is coming, and we'll talk about all of that and how technology is impacting the business. Today is a bonus episode also because I'm not just going to talk about a book, I'm also going to talk about a podcast that I recently saw where Paul Hudson, the CEO of Sanofi, which is a pharmaceutical company by the way, is transforming the entire company using artificial intelligence. So he's imbibed artificial intelligence into every single business function, every single technology that is being used within the organization. They are rethinking the entire organization from the perspective of artificial intelligence, and they're changing things. And what I liked about that particular podcast is that that Paul Hudson himself, being the CEO of the organization, is engaged in every single AI project within the company. It's not that he's delegating it and forgetting about it, right? He in fact says that do not delegate the revolution. Okay, he engages all the programs, all the projects which are there related to artificial intelligence himself, and is in the thick of things. He's in the trenches. So very interesting podcast. I will share the link in the show notes. It's about 20-25 minutes, but fun conversation to listen to. That's a wrap for me today. If you've enjoyed the video, then do you let YouTube know. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. Tell me what you would like to hear. Tell me what you would like me to cover as a topic on Enterprise Architecture Radio. Also, if you are a business or a technology leader and you would like to come as a guest to Enterprise Architecture Radio, then please reach out. I'm trying to invite guests into the podcast. I've recorded a couple of episodes. I will continue to record a couple of episodes. Once I have a decent number of recordings done, I will start publishing them as well. Once again, Enterprise Architecture Radio is not just a podcast, it is a collaboration platform. We come together and we help each other out. There is a Telegram group and there is a Discord server. Now, the Discord server is not really growing that much, but then again, I've not been spending time on it myself. It's been very, very busy these days. In fact, today is 15th of August, it's Friday, and I'm recording the podcast. It's 4:30. I have to publish the podcast before 9:30 p.m., which also involves editing the podcast and so on. So I would prefer to have a couple of podcasts recorded and then so that there is, breathing space and I can do some other stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not being able to do that also. Very, very busy. Children are growing up. The things. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is come to the Discord server, start collaborating, it doesn't have to be something extremely complex or something like a bolt out of the blue. It could be something very simple. You could ask a question about something that you're working on. It could be a transformation that you're trying to do, or changing your career path, for example, going towards strategy, or migrating applications to the public cloud and challenges that you're facing, or anything like that, or a certification that you're trying to do and how you should go about it, or where you should study, or things like that. Because ultimately, the group is about helping each other out, learning from each other, but most importantly, having a ton of fun.